webinar on creating an effective capability statement. I'll just go ahead and do a couple preliminary housekeeping things, and then we'll start taping. My name is Shonda Harris, and I am with the U.S. Small Business Administration. I'm a business opportunity specialist, and we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. Today's webinar and this entire webinar series is for our Ohio Business Matchmaker. And for those of you that may not be familiar with the Matchmaker event, it is our largest signature matchmaking event around contracting. So if you're a small business and maybe you may be doing business in the commercial sector or in the private sector, and now you want to transition and do business with the government at any level, federal, state, city, county, then that's what this matchmaker is about, to give small businesses an opportunity to do business with government entities, as well as some colleges and universities. Typically, I believe this is our 13th or 15th year, Sharon, of doing the matchmaker. 13th, 14th, or 15th, somewhere in there, that we've been putting this on. And typically, the matchmaker is in April. But of course, with everything going on with COVID, we weren't able to do it at that time. But thankfully, we were able to pivot. And now the matchmaker is, of course, going virtual. So November 17th and 18th, we will be hosting the Ohio Business Matchmaker virtually. If you have not registered, it's only $35, but it will be a wonderful event, and again, a great opportunity for you to connect with those government entities. So if you do need to register, you can visit ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com. Again, ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com. I know last year we had over 500 small businesses that registered and attended, and a great way to not only connect with government entities, but do some business-to-business marketing as well. Now, this wonderful event, we definitely can't put it on by ourselves, but it's a wonderful collaboration of partnerships. So again, I'm with the SBA. We partner with the Ohio Development Services Agency, the Small Business Development Center, the PTAX Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. And so one of our partners, we want to introduce now and have them share some words, Sharon Hopkins, who is the director of the Ohio University PTAC. So Sharon, if you'd like to say some words to our individuals today and give them some information about what PTAC does.
Well, thanks, Shonda. Good morning, everyone. We're glad you're here with us today. Hopefully you'll learn a lot from Jane as she goes over our recommendations for you to develop a capability statement that reflects your company and will hopefully get you some attention. The PTAC services, I guess our mission in life is actually just to help companies sell to government agencies, and that's local, federal, and state agencies. And we assist with all of that. We have a bid matching system that will match you against what the government is buying out there, so that you're aware of solicitations that you could possibly utilize and even respond to. We then, once you have identified a particular solicitation that you're interested in, we will help you look at that solicitation and kind of go over it with you, make sure you understand what the requirements are. And then we can be there to advise you and to guide you as you prepare your proposal. So once we've done all of that, hopefully you're successful and you win. We're always excited our clients win. And then we also, some of the other things we do besides just helping you win contracts, is we look at set-aside programs and talk about those with you to see if there's anything that you might fit into, whether it's a HUBZone program, an 8A program with SBA, or a woman in business or veteran, service disabled veteran owner. So we'll walk you through those guidelines and criteria, and if you're interested and want to apply and qualify, then we also can kind of guide you through that process. We also work with people that might not quite have a company yet. Typically, somebody without a company is not somebody we deal with. But if you're an inventor or you have an idea, and there might be a SBIR, which is a Small Business Innovation Research Grant that the military might have out there for you, we can also, kind of guide you through that process. So we're kind of here to help you interact and contract with government. So last year, 2019, our total for all of our clients statewide, because we are part of a statewide network, I forgot to tell you that. And
That's important.
It is. And as a statewide, our clients won over $1 billion, and that's with a B, dollars worth of contracts. So we were super excited about that. And, we are always hoping to do better every year. So thank you, Shonda.
Thank you, Sharon. So as you heard Sharon kind of explain a little bit about PTAC, if you are new to getting started and looking to do business with the government, or if you've just started, or if you're starting locally and you want to expand to the state or the federal, the PTAC is an excellent resource to kind of walk you through from kind of beginning to end, as Sharon said. So today, as you listen to the presentation about capability statement, if you have a question or if you need assistance with anything, as she said, the PTAC is a statewide network and they have counselors all throughout Ohio. So you can visit, Sharon, if you could type the website where they can visit for PTAC. I know you can just Google Ohio PTAC and it'll bring it up, and then you can find the counselor that is closest to you. I believe they have 8 Ohio University.
Yeah, we have 10 staff. So we have several sites across the state. We go as far northeast as Cleveland and to the east, and then Akron. We have 2 offices up in the Cleveland area, one downtown Cleveland with SBA. Jane, our presenter today, is normally housed over at Lakeland Community College.
Awesome.
And then we have an office in Akron. We have one in Columbus, Pickerington, Dayton, and Cincinnati. And then, of course, I'm in Athens.
Okay.
And our website is just ptac.ohio.edu. There is a state website, and I'll put that in the chat as well.
Okay.
But from my site, you can find anybody in the state as well by looking at the map. The state's website is www.find.govcontracts.ohio.gov, and I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks again, Sharon. Well, again, the PTAC counselors are a wonderful resource, and with that, we do have one of Ohio University's wonderful counselors that will be presenting today's training. Jane Stewart is the Northeast Ohio Associate Director for the Ohio University PTAC. She brings over 20 years of experience working with small businesses and helping them to do business with the government. And she's been with PTAC as a counselor. She kind of has specialties as far as helping companies get on GSA schedules. She's also a verified VA certified counselor. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and you do need to get certified, she can assist you with that. Without further ado, we would like to hear from Jane. Now, I would like to say, if you do have questions throughout the presentation. We do have enough time, and we do like to make it interactive. So if you want to go ahead and type your questions in the chat, myself or Sharon can address those, and Jane can answer them as she goes along. So Jane,
Thank you,
take it
Shonda.
away.
Thank you, Shonda, and thank you, Sharon. Just give me a second here to get my screen up. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's a good start, right? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about writing a capability statement. We're going to go through why you want a capability statement and the things that need to be included in the capability statement, and then how to use it. Okay, so starting off, what is a capability statement? Essentially, a capability statement is a one-page document that highlights areas of expertise. It tells potential customers who you are, exactly what you do, and what sets you apart from your competitors. There are 4 major parts that make up a capability statement: core competency, past performance, corporate data, and contact information. And we're going to go through each item in better detail. So, why should you have a capability statement? Well, the most important reason is for marketing purposes. A capability statement is probably the most important tool that you can have in your marketing toolbox. It can serve as a resume for your business. It's also very often required by a government or agency, or a government agency or a prime contractor at an initial meeting. The capability statement lets a buyer know that you are government contracting ready. And it tells them exactly what you have available and how it can help their mission. There are opportunities that are put out, or market research opportunities that are put out by federal agencies called sources sought notices. These are market research where the buyer is looking for companies who can fulfill their need and meet socioeconomic requirements. So when you submit a sources sought, they're looking for small business, veteran-owned, woman-owned, minority-owned. And agencies are required to have at least 2 responsible companies before they can make a contract as set aside for the various socioeconomic categories. And lastly, I think a capability statement can really set you apart from the competition. If you walk into a meeting and you have a quality capability statement ready for that contracting officer, they're going to take notice and be impressed. So, putting together a capability statement really requires some effort and serious attention. This is not something that you can just slap together and pull it out whenever you need it. It is absolutely imperative that it is a living, breathing document, that you update it as needed, and it truly is a snapshot of your company. Some of the biggest mistakes that I think all of us at PTAC see on a regular basis: poor language skills. Spelling counts. Nothing gives a worse impression than a lot of misspellings. all programs, Word, Excel, whatever you're using, they all have spell check. Make sure that you use it. A key part of the capability statement is past performance. Buyers are looking for what you've done in the past because that shows that you can provide what they need. If you've never done it before, that's not going to give them a very warm and fuzzy feeling. So it's important that you identify projects that you have done successfully previously.
Excuse me, can I jump in and ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sure. So you mentioned earlier about past projects and using that to basically convince the person who's reading your capability statement. So can your past experience also be tied to things that you've done in the private sector, even if you were an employee at a different company, for example?
Well, that kind of is a gray area. You can definitely use past performance in the commercial world. If you're a new business and you've never had any contracts as your company, you can work with previous employers to speak to your experience and your knowledge. But you need to be careful about using employer past performance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So just be sure I understand what you're saying is pretty much be careful using your employer as your, speaking piece for your company versus, you need to pretty much build that experience yourself through your own company to
Exactly.
make the argument.
You can say that I have worked in the industry for 15 years and I have, this list of experience.
I see now.
Okay? Okay.
All right. Thanks for clearing that out.
You're welcome. Another problem that we see frequently are too many capability or too many core competencies are identified. Not very many companies can be an excellent IT company and a machine shop and a janitorial company and a landscaper. That's too many things. You want to focus on what you do best. If you do have different divisions of your company, I think it's better to have separate capability statements rather than lumping it all in one. Another problem, generic differentiators. Differentiators are those things that truly set you apart. And if they're just general statements, that's really not going to speak all that highly of your company. And we'll get more into differentiators later. A bland document. You want to jazz it up a little bit. You want to make sure it's an interesting read. And not keeping the capability statement current. If you have changes, make them to the capability statement before you distribute it. Nothing is worse than being at a matchmaker event and handing the person you're speaking with your capability statement and then, oh, I forgot, we have a new phone number. Let me write that in. You want to make sure everything is current. Oftentimes the reader, will only give you maybe 45 seconds to review your capabilities statement. So you want to make it count. You want to capture their attention and pique their interest. And hopefully after today, we can do that. So format. Brevity is key. One-page document is really the best. You want to keep it to the point. One page. Most companies don't need more than that to highlight their business. You want to use bullet points, not big lengthy paragraphs. Remember, you want it easy to read. Keep it simple and clean. And again, you might want to create several different versions depending on who the specific market is that you're targeting. Keep it visually interesting. Use graphics and color within reason. You don't want a rainbow out there, but if you have color that is part of your logo and your branding, you want to use that. When you're going to an in-person event, print it out on quality paper. Don't use recycled leftovers. You know, it's important. You want to make a good impression. You want the document to be easy to read. Utilize dividers and other separators to keep the sections together. You also, not only do you want a hard copy that you can distribute as you need to, but you also want to convert your statement to a PDF file for emailing. And it's also, remember to name the file something descriptive. You want it to say Jane Stewart Company Capability Statement. You don't want anyone guessing exactly what the document is.
Jane, as we transition to the next slide, we have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if you, somebody is asking, you listed past performance
Uh-huh.
and what past performance should not include. Can you maybe tell the participants what it should include?
We're going to get to that in greater detail.
Gotcha. Okay. And then also, okay. And then also with the one-page format, somebody wants to know, should it be front and back? How should that work?
Ideally, it should be the front of the document. If you have a lot of past performance that you want to highlight for a specific meeting, you can put that on the back.
Okay, and one last thing, if somebody does have past performance, but it's like all in the private sector, and they have non-disclosure agreements that are set up, is that something that they can include as their past performance, or should they not include that?
Well,
That's a tough one.
that's a tough one.
Yeah.
You can, I guess I would say include it without providing any details that, you know, you can't. And then if a buyer asks you for more details, then perhaps you can explain the situation and that you have non-disclosure agreements in place.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, that's all we have for right now. Thank you.
So I don't know if anybody noticed my little squirrel here and all of the little acorns. That is my little visual representation of making the document easy to read. You want that little acorn right in front of the squirrel. You don't want the reader looking all over the document for specific information. I know. I had to add a little bit of fun in there, a little color. Okay, now let's get more in detail for the content of your capability statement. So first off is core competency. This is what you do absolutely the best. So you want to create a short introductory statement. Identify exactly what you do. And remember, you don't have to list everything that you might be able to do. You want to address what you do absolutely the best. Include any special skills or technology that your average company doesn't have. For example, if you're a machine shop, I mean, every machine shop will have a lathe and a CNC and a boring mill and a whatever, but maybe not everyone will have, I don't know, a 10-axis CNC machine that can make 800 parts a minute. I don't know, I'm just making that up. But if you have something that is unique, that's what you want to highlight. Identify what you can deliver with exceptional results, exceptional results. Again, just highlight what you do better than anybody else in the field. If you're speaking with a specific audience, if you have a specific meeting with an agency, you might want to include that agency in your introduction. And say something about how your company can fulfill a need that that agency has. And relate your company's core competency to what that agency's mission is. If you're talking to NASA, they probably don't want to know about your boat building experience. So think about those types of things when you need to target to a specific audience. Okay, past performance. Want to list customers. Who have you worked with in the past? You don't want it to be too old. About 3 years and newer is what you want to use. Unless you have something incredibly fantastic that you've done previously, even if it were, further back, you can still use that. Include commercial, government, and any subcontracting work. You don't just have to use government projects for your past performance. Oftentimes it can be pretty difficult or more difficult working with big prime companies than working with the government. So utilize all the past performance that you can. Make sure that you provide contact information with your past performance. The name, maybe the title, their phone number, their email, and make sure the contact is still at that facility before you put the information out there. Include a really brief description of the work, including how long was the project? Is it ongoing? Did it last, 8 months? Maybe address some of the results of the contract. Did this project save the agency or company a lot of money? What were the results of that project? You might want to include the dollar value. It's pretty impressive if you have completed a $500,000 contract. So you might want to include that. And you also want to prioritize your past performance. I think including the more well-known past performance or companies at the beginning and lesser known toward the end, even if the more well-known is value. I think it's more impressive to put the most recognizable companies first and then go from there. So again, when you're speaking to a specific audience, you want to show the benefit to that agency. You want to highlight what you do specifically that can help that particular agency. And when you're listing your company or your past performance, you want to use any past performance that in other departments of that agency, and then go to other government agencies and on down. And be brief. You're not writing a dissertation. You really only need a few lines. Plus, you don't want to give all the information up front. You want to pique their interest so they come back and ask you questions and want more information. Okay, differentiators. This seems to be the hardest part for a lot of companies. Differentiators are those things that set you apart from the pack, the things that make you distinct and really grab the attention of the reader. So identify your unique features like we spoke of earlier. What maybe production capacity is important for your industry. Quality assurance programs. Are you ISO certified? Are you any of the other ones? Those can be very important depending on who you're speaking with. Have you received any industry certifications? I know that a lot of the primes, the big prime companies, they'll do awards for exceptionally performing subcontractors. State-of-the-art technology. Again, do you have something that is absolutely cutting edge? Green initiatives. That can be very important to certain agencies and for certain projects. What's the geographic coverage? What kind of training and education do your employees regularly obtain to keep current with what's happening in the current world? Another thing that is becoming more and more important is the, I'm going to screw this up, I know, CMMC, Computer Maturity Model Certification.
CMMC.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Shonda. That is becoming more and more important, and eventually all government agencies are going to require that you have CMMC, which is a security program for your IT system.
Yeah.
And if you're already starting that process, you want to highlight that on your capability statement. That could be the difference between you getting a contract and another company who doesn't have the certification.
Jane,
Yes.
we have quite a few amount of questions in the chat. I'm glad that we have a lively audience today. And before we transition, do you mind addressing these?
Absolutely, please.
Okay, wonderful. I'm glad that they're very engaged this morning. One, someone wants to know, do you have examples of capability statements that you would kind of consider best in class that you could potentially share with the participants today?
I have a template, and I have capability statements from clients that I could sanitize and share.
Okay.
please
Okay.
email me or email your local PTAC. We all have the templates. We all have capability statements that we help our clients with.
Yeah.
So reach out and we'll try to provide you with examples.
Okay, that's wonderful. And then also, someone asked, they have a capability statement and they're going to update it after today's presentation. Going to use some of your tips and some of your suggestions, but she's concerned about the layout with some of the additional recommendations that you've provided today, as far as like contact information, dollar value on contracts. Are there any recommendations as it relates to the layout? She's feeling that 11.5 by 17 sheet size paper, maybe increasing that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do think it's important, especially when you're meeting with in person, that your capability statement is just one page. A lot of capability statements that I've reviewed, I've noticed can be really heavy in graphics and white space. And though you do need a certain amount of white space and you want your graphics for interest, but a lot of times you can eliminate some of that and use a little bit smaller font. Now, I'm not like an 8 or anything like that, but you don't need a 20 font for your section divider. Things like that, little things like that you can gain a lot of space.
Yeah. Now, would you suggest, because sometimes I have seen some clients where they absolutely do need that second page, and if so, would you recommend them doing the front and back type of format?
Yes, front and back, rather than 2 separate sheets.
Okay.
You want as little as possible for that contract or whoever you're meeting with. You want as little as possible for them to carry away.
Okay, so that front and back format would definitely work. Still have a couple more questions.
Okay.
Someone has done some pro bono work, and so they want to know, like they've taught on an annual basis at like a City of Police Academy, but it's done more as pro bono. They've done it as a service, as maybe a thank you to someone that is in a leadership position. Is that something that they can include in their past performance?
I don't see why not. As long as it is comparable to what they would be charging for and they had good results, why not? It's experience.
Right. Great question. Here's another. Are grant awards relevant to list on the capability statement?
Well, if it's an SBIR grant, that's a tough one, because as PTACs, we really don't get involved with grants other than SBIR. So that one I'm not entirely sure how to answer.
Okay.
Sharon, do you have any input on that?
Yeah, I would say most generally you receive grants because it's the core of what you're doing anyway. So I can see where that also could be used as past performance if you'd like to use it, as long as you successfully concluded your grant.
Yeah. I think I would agree also. If somebody had a SBIR, STTR, and they're in the research in that field, I think it speaks to their capability to be able to reach that level. So I think it could add some credibility to their, their core competencies and their skills, because not just anybody can make it through those different phases. So if that is applicable to their business, that could be something. But again, you can definitely work with your PTAC counselors and they can kind of help you navigate through that. There's some more to that question, and we've had some more questions come in. I think there's two more parts to that question. Now, if somebody they haven't done they don't have any federal past performance. So they haven't done any business with the federal government, but they have done some business with the state. And then I'll even say some people may have done some business with a county or a municipality, a lower level of a local government. How could they put that? They can still list that on their capability statement.
Absolutely. Just because you've never done federal work in the past, that does not mean that it's a deal breaker for getting a contract. Everybody starts somewhere. And as long as it's similar in size and scope to what you're trying to do for the federal government, absolutely relevant, and I would encourage you to use it on the capability statement.
Yes, and if I can add to that, sometimes I've seen clients where they may categorize, where they may have past performance in the private sector, in commercial sector, and with government, and then they may list it out. Okay, here's my government past performance, even if it's just state and local. Here's my commercial. So it just depends. And then here's another. They're coming in as we're dialoguing. So Jane, you're doing a wonderful job. Has some great questions. With COVID and everything that's going on with the coronavirus, I don't know if this particular company, maybe their core competencies are in one specific area, and maybe as a result of the pandemic, they've pivoted and they were able to produce PPE equipment for the state. And so they're wondering, I think this is outside of their regular core competencies. Is that something that they can include on their capability statement as well?
I think I would. Let's say that I don't know, whatever you were previously manufacturing, and then you were able to pivot your company to provide for a current need. I think that speaks a lot about a company, that you have the creativity and the ability to change and keep up with what's currently being required.
Yeah. And I think
I would definitely. Go ahead.
No, I agree. And I think it could speak to their ability to be flexible.
Yes, definitely.
And so being able to offer, something different and, pivot and transition. Great. We do have another question, Jane, from a Melissa about certifications, but I think maybe if we can save that toward the end. I think all of these questions have been in alignment with where you're at now, but maybe if we can save that toward the end, we'll come back to that.
Okay, yeah, that will be addressed later too.
Okay, great questions, everyone. Okay, I think that's it for now.
Comment, everybody. Okay. Continuation of creators and audience-specific information. Again, speak to the needs of the particular agency or organization that you're meeting with. I talk about upcoming contracts that you're aware of. Maybe you saw in the procurement forecasts, you saw an opportunity that would be great for your company. Mention that and identify how you can benefit the agency on that particular opportunity. Incorporate relevant metrics. These aren't always These aren't always defined or part of every contract or project. But if you, let's say you increased, I'm trying to think of an example and I'm not doing very good. Let's say that you were able to decrease the amount of time products and equipment were getting to military units. You know, you decreased it by 50%. That's a metric that you would want to highlight. Maybe you've reduced the cost of some type of equipment by 20%. That's a metric that you would want to highlight, because those things are important to every agency, every organization. And if you have a solution to offer, maybe that they don't even realize they have the problem, put it out there. I had one client quite a while ago. He worked in the he was in the Air Force, and he repaired airplanes. And keeping tools organized was the nightmare. So he came up with a system where every tool had a spot on a rack, and he came up with that idea and he presented a solution that nobody realized they had the problem. So if you have something creative to offer, put it out there. So some of the differentiators are not socioeconomic certifications. That is not a differentiator. That is icing on the cake. Making generic statements, you know, saying that you have quality people, services, products. Well, everybody has quality. 100 years of combined experience. That is not a good statement to use. It really doesn't mean anything. You know, solutions provider. Well, anybody can say that. You want to have specifics as your differentiators. Best in class, best of breed. These things, they're just kind of filler fluff. You don't need the filler fluff. These are not going to capture any, these types of things are not going to capture anybody's attention. So some of the things that you don't want to use for your differentiators, our plan is perfect or beautiful or cutting edge. Boasting just lessens your credibility. We're focused, dedicated, trustworthy. Again, these are very vague statements and they don't really provide any value. Be specific, give examples. Why are you focused? Why are you dedicated? I mean, show something of substance. Don't use a lot of extra words. You know, you're not writing a sonnet here. Just get to the point. Instead of along the lines of, use similar, in the neighborhood of, just say about. Get rid of all the extra fluff. Unnecessary qualifiers. Again, it's just fluff. Needless to say, always, certainly, relatively. I mean, these are just words that don't add anything. And needlessly long words. You know, instead of saying irregardless, which is not a word, and that goes back to making sure that you use spell check. Just say regardless. Instead of utilization, just use. and getting rid of all this fluffy stuff.
Excuse me.
Yes.
And
Sorry to jump in again. So be sure I'm understanding. You're basically saying that we shouldn't probably be using a lot of action verbs in essence when we're trying to set up differentiators about ourselves.
Yes, you want action verbs. You don't want fluff.
I thought like utilization was an action verb because I'm utilizing something.
True. But in some cases, where a shorter word
yeah,
is just as effective, I think using a shorter word can be better than a long.
I see now. Okay.
Because it just makes for easier reading. And a lot of times when a buyer is looking through a capability statement, they're scanning it to have certain words pop out at them. So, that if the more fluff you have in there, the harder it's going to be for that person to quickly scan and looking for what they're what they really want to see. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes it a lot clearer. Thanks for answering that.
My pleasure.
and Jane, it looks like we do have another
Okay.
question as it relates to the differentiators. If someone has a wonderful rating from the Better Business Bureau, would that be something that they could use as a differentiator for their business and list on their capability statement?
Absolutely. Not everybody has the AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau or whatever it is. I don't remember.
Okay.
But yes, I would use it because that is something that not every company is going to have.
Absolutely. Yep. And if I can add, if whatever industry you're in, if there are any industry certifications, industry awards that your company may have, that definitely could set you apart from your competition.
Absolutely.
As it relates to you being, providing excellent service, and not everyone would be able to have those different type of distinguishing, if it's an award, a certification. So those industry certifications can also be something that can definitely set you apart.
Absolutely. Yep. Those are the kinds of things that you want to make sure you include. The things that not everybody has. Okay?
Okay, I think that's it for right now.
Okay. So, company data. When you're now the company data that you utilize, it might be different depending on who you are trying to reach, okay? On a federal level, DUNS number, cage code, NAICS, and federal supply codes. The DUNS number is a number assigned from Dun & Bradstreet. The cage code is a 5-digit alphanumeric code that you're assigned after you successfully register in the System for Award Management. NAICS codes are the North American Industrial Classification codes. Those identify the type of business a company is. Product service codes and federal supply codes, those identify the specific areas of service or product that a company offers. Those are of interest only to federal buyers. By having these things identified on your capability statement, that shows that you are government contract ready, that they don't have to start from ground zero, that you have all of this stuff covered and you're ready to jump in and perform. All government contracts they're categorized by the NAICS code, and oftentimes also the PSC code and the Federal Supply Code. That's something that buyers are looking for. They are looking to buy components that go into 20mm weapons. Then they're going to want to see that your Federal Supply Code is 1005. So it's important that you have these identified and you have them all listed. Do you have a GSA schedule? GSA is the General Services Administration, and it's one way that government agencies can buy products and services. Do you have any BPAs or other types of GWACs, government-wide contracts? If you have them, and that's how that particular agency does their purchasing, you need to include it. Here's where you want to highlight all of the socioeconomic certifications that your company has. Small business, woman-owned small business, 8A certified, HUBZone, service disabled, veteran-owned small business. And again, well, not again, but, and these certifications are only of interest in the federal marketplace. Every level of government, federal, state, and local, they all have their own certification programs. So you might be HUBZone certified, but the state of Ohio probably isn't going to really care about that. The state of Ohio wants to know that you have MBE Edge. So consider that type of information when you're putting together your capability statements. If you're going to an event where only federal people are going to be, just include the federal data. If you're going just to a state event, just include your state data. How many employees do you have? That could be relevant. What type of capacity does your company have? You know, think about what is important in your industry, and that, you know, that's what you want to include in your company data. Do you accept credit cards? The federal government can use a credit card to purchase anything under $10,000. So if you sell widgets and they need to buy a couple $1,000s worth of widgets, they want to know that you're going to be able to take a credit card. Don't forget contact information. I see this time and time again.
Yeah.
A name, an email, a direct phone number, maybe even your website. Nobody wants to call an 800 number and ask, you know, try to locate, you know, somebody. I want to talk to somebody about government contracting. No, they're not going to take the time. Have a person's name and a direct phone number and email.
Shane, we've had a couple of questions come in. Okay, I want to share those. Great point about that contact information. I know I've worked with several clients where the capability statement looks wonderful, the colors.
Yeah.
And if somebody were interested, how would they contact you? They left off the contact information. Great point.
I mean, these people are busy. They're not going to take the time to hunt down who to call.
Right. Okay. It looks like someone wants to know for DUNS.
Mm-hmm.
The DUNS free version does not provide much as far as credit rating for small businesses. More in depth. Hang on. Let me get this one. That was a lengthy one. How does someone register, or how do they get a CAGE code? And how do they set up their PSC and FSC codes?
Okay. to get a cage code, you go to sam.gov, sam.gov. And in order to start the SAM registration, you do have to have a DUNS number. And I do have a slide with websites on it coming up.
Okay, good.
And I have websites for the NAICS codes and the federal supply codes too.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question.
Uh-huh.
Someone said if they're in a meeting with a state or local government buyer, wouldn't those state and local government personnel, shouldn't they, if they were on a GSA schedule, should they still include the GSA schedule contract number, even if they're just talking to a state or local person? Wouldn't that GSA schedule add credibility to them, even though they're not federal buyers that they're talking to?
Yes. And also, certain state and local agencies like fire departments, police departments, universities, I can't think of the rest, but they can purchase off of the GSA schedule. So definitely I would include your GSA contract number.
Yeah, even the state and local entities will use those as well. Yeah. Here's another one. We got a couple more that are coming in. Do you think that is good? Very engaging today. Do you think the number of employees is critical information? This company has about 11 employees, which they think suggests maybe a limited capacity, which on their end they're saying is not true.
Right.
And it seems like including the size, scope of projects they have handled would be able to address their capacity. And 11 employees may beg a question off the bat. 11 employees may say something a little differently.
Correct. Then I wouldn't use it.
Okay.
Only use it, I mean, other than, well, that's probably the only optional one in here. If it doesn't represent your company, if it's irrelevant, don't use it.
Okay.
If it says something about, your company, then use it.
Good. Okay. Still have a couple more here.
Okay.
Someone wants to know, how do they get a GSA schedule contract number? How do they get on a GSA schedule?
Well, that's tons of fun.
Right up your alley.
A GSA schedule, I'm sorry, I have to unplug my fan here real quick. Okay. A GSA schedule is essentially a pre-approval of a company's product and service and pricing structure. It's one way the government buys. A buyer can go directly to the GSA, GSA Advantage, and fill up their little shopping cart, just like Amazon. Pay with a credit card and they're done. If it's a bigger project, they can compete it only among GSA schedule holders. It is a very lengthy process. It is preparing a proposal on steroids. If you can go to rats. I can't think of the Google GSA roadmap. GSA roadmap. And that is a really good website to give you a basic understanding of what is involved and how you complete the process. If you determine that a GSA schedule is a good fit for your company, please reach out to your PTAC. We can provide GSA assistance at no cost. If you want to spend thousands of dollars on a consultant to do your GSA schedule, that's an option. But all they do is put the information together and upload it, or format the information and upload it. You still have to do all the heavy lifting.
Good. Someone said that is a kind description of getting on a GSA schedule. I guess they tried. We have a couple more. These are actually great questions, and it seems like we have a good variety of different companies that are on the presentation today.
Good.
Okay, as it relates to a DUNS number, is that the DUNS, for the DUNS version that's the free version, it
Yeah.
does not provide much as far as credit rating for small businesses. And the DMB,
Yeah.
Dun & Bradstreet, wants to charge for almost $2,000 a year for more in-depth credit information from suppliers. Without paying this, is this going to hold small businesses back from getting contracts, say for a business with 1 million in revenue?
Yeah. No, you do not, for government contracting purposes, you don't need to pay for any of the Dun & Bradstreet services. In fact, and I don't know when this is going to happen, but the federal government is moving away from Dun & Bradstreet. No longer will the DUNS number be required to start the SAM registration. You're going to have to get what's called a SAMI, SAMMI.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what that acronym is. I apologize. So the SAMI is going to be replacing the DUNS number. I don't know what's going to happen. So,
Jane, we received an email late last night, you may not have seen it yet, from GSA that says they've contracted with Dun & Bradstreet until it looks like April of 2021.
okay, thank
wow.
No, I'm sorry, 2022.
Oh, wow.
Really, for 2 more years. Okay,
Wow.
I'm not aware of that. So thank you. But still, you don't need to pay for any of the Dun & Bradstreet services for government contracting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it does not hold you back in any way.
Good point. I would say if someone if that is happening and you are trying to get your DUNS number and they're saying you have to pay, please check with your PTAC counselors before you make a decision to pay any money. If it's to get on a GSA schedule, to get a rating for your DUNS number, because you definitely may not need that. But before you pay any type of money, even to register for SAM, please reach out to your PTACs, because they're there to help, and those services are provided for free, and they can help guide you through that.
Really good point, Shonda. And I'd like to bring up that if you do need to register in SAM, do not put sam.gov in a Google or Yahoo or whatever. Type it in the address bar. Make sure that you end up at a .gov website. There are many, well, I don't know about many, but there are a bunch of commercial websites, very government and very official. And as you go through, they're going to want your credit card number. No. You do not need to pay to get in SAM.
Right.
Okay?
Great point, Jane. We have more questions coming in. You guys are asking some wonderful questions.
Yes.
She's doing an excellent job. They're just bringing up more. This is a good point. Someone has 2 CAGE codes, which sometimes that can happen. One is a legacy one, and one is an active one. Would you recommend that they use both? And it looks like the same business, it's the same business, but the legacy CAGE code has all of their NSNs. This looks like it must be a manufacturing company. So their legacy CAGE code is for their NSNs and some older NSNs, and then the other CAGE code is for other things. What would you suggest they do?
I would want to know why they got a new CAGE code rather than reactivate the old cage code. You really shouldn't have two separate cage codes for the same business.
And if I could speak to that, they might, especially if it's a manufacturing company, sometimes some products, maybe if it's an OEM and maybe they were manufacturing a product, let's just say an engine, and maybe they adopted it from another company, that company bought them out, and that particular cage code is associated with a specific product or products. That could be, but they have a cage code for the company. So as it relates to manufacturing companies, they may have several cage codes for the products that they have. And what you may want to do is list the cage codes for, if it's a legacy cage code, list the legacy cage code, and maybe list the specific products that fall under that cage code. And that's kind of for manufacturing, and that's kind of an anomaly. It's not going to be your average, but maybe kind of list the cage codes, and then whatever cage code, whatever products are assigned to the one, and the products that are assigned to the other. But that's not going to be the average, but sometimes that does happen, especially in manufacturing.
Yeah. The other thing might be to combine them and do a DBA. It's hard to really say without knowing all the details. So I would go with what Shonda said.
Great question. Great question.
Sorry.
Okay, if going back to with the DUNS, if you already have a DUNS number, will you still have to get a SAMI?
I honestly don't know. I don't think anybody knows how that transition is going to happen. So Sharon said not until 2022. So I guess don't worry about it yet.
Okay. This one, and I think this is the last one out of this set. Someone has the state certifications, the EDGE and WBE, but not the WOSB, which is for federal certifications. Would you recommend that they wait to do the matchmaker and then complete their capability statements, once they get certified? Do you think they should wait, or should they go ahead and work on it?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Definitely. If you're going to be going to the matchmaker, I really encourage you to have a capability statement ready.
Good.
And you can always, you can always note that you're currently working on your WOSB or your veteran verification or whatever.
Yeah, great point.
And even if you don't have the WOSB or the 8A or the veteran verification, still identify that you are a woman-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned small business.
Okay.
Because you don't have the certifications does not mean that you shouldn't identify your socioeconomic categories.
Great point. And maybe to your point, Jane, if they do have MBE or EDGE, and maybe, as they stated, they're applying for the WOSB, as far as making things short and sweet, maybe they can put pending next to the one to keep it short and sweet and not put a lot. Okay, great. Another question snuck in here, Jane. This one I'm gonna save. Well, if you wanna just go ahead and address it, then we'll move on, since it's the last one. How do you find subcontracting opportunities with GSA?
Well, you can go to the GSA eLibrary, gsaelibrary.gsa.gov, And that's a website where you can locate all of the current GSA schedule holders, and you can, do marketing and research and reach out to them. The other thing that you can do is you can go to usaspending.gov, fpds.gov, or contact your local PTAC and do some research on what on GSA purchases in your business category, and get information on the companies that have been awarded the contracts, and then you can reach out to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if I may put a plug in for PTAC, that takes a little bit of navigating. I would definitely recommend that you reach out to your PTAC counselor so that they can kind of walk you through it. She did kind of give you the websites for that, but it has a couple steps involved and kind of going through that. So I definitely would recommend that you reach out to your local PTAC representative and they can walk you through that, set up an appointment. And again, that is at no charge, and that could be, a couple sessions, but that may take a little bit more and be a little bit more involved.
Yeah, there is a wealth of marketing and information that's available. It's just not always really easy to find what you're looking for. So definitely reach out.
Okay, that's it for now, Jane. We can go on and we'll do the other questions. Yeah.
Okay. Websites. To get NAICS codes, a NAICS code is a 6-digit code, and it's the 6-digit that you want. Well, it starts out as a 2-digit code and then it details out, but you want to use that 6-digit code on your capability statement. And this is the website I use. The state government, Ohio, generally uses the UNSPSC codes. And don't ask me to tell you what that acronym is for. But here's the website to get the codes that state contracts use. The SAM.gov, here's the website, the DUNS number. I don't think they'll, well, you can try calling, but I think they generally use you have to use the website. And I'm sorry, I don't have the websites for these things.
For the social.
Gov is the website for 8A information, woman-owned small business. How did I miss putting the websites on here? I apologize.
For federal 8A Hub Zone WOSB, just go to SBA.gov, and then there is a new site for WOSB. I think it's Beta. I forget what if you go to the SBA's website, because they just updated it. If you go to the SBA's website, it will help you navigate. I know for 8A certification, it's now done through certify.sba.gov. I think WOSB is beta certified.
Right.
And then the SDVOSB, isn't it the, Jane, isn't that through the
It's through the
VA verification website?
Yeah, verification. If you want the websites, please email me and I will send you a complete website list. How about that? And you can Google these, but just make sure that you're at a government website and not a commercial website. Okay, and for the GSA schedules, GSA Roadmap is the best website to go to get some preliminary information and get an idea of what's involved. So my humblest apologies for not having this complete.
But that gives somebody a reason to interact and engage with PTAC and with you, right?
Well, that's really why I did it. I deliberately left them off.
Just unveiled it. Okay.
So once you create this incredible, awesome capability statement, what are you going to do with it? Well, you can use it for email marketing. And create a very brief introductory email and attach your capability statement. So if you know that Shonda Harris of the SBA is looking to buy, I don't know, some new jewelry, you could send her an email. Dear Ms. Harris, I wanted to introduce my company. We provide silver and gold jewelry. Attached for your review is my capability statement. Please contact if you have any questions. Simple, right? But remember, no mass emails. If you send out a mass email to government folks, it is going to get spammed out and won't be delivered. Always address your email to a specific person. You want to say, Dear Ms. Harris, not Dear Contracting Professional or to whom it may concern or anything like that. You want to do your research and get a real person that you can send it to. Again, make sure your capabilities in a PDF format. A lot of times Word documents and government email do not always like each other. And make sure that you use recognizable naming for your capability statement. You want to say Shonda Harris capability statement. Make it obvious what the document is. You can find government folks to email your capability statement to. Every single government agency has a small business office. Those are usually the easiest people to find and a good first approach to any agency. You can go to, for example, to find every small business liaison officer in the Air Force. I think it's Air Force Small Biz, I don't remember. Again, if you want the email address or the websites, email me. But you can find all of the small business representatives for agencies. So if you don't know who to contact, but you know they need what you offer, start at the small business office. If you are a PTAC client, the daily bid notices that go out, they will have the contact information of the buyer. Email the buyer. What's the worst that'll happen? They're going to delete it? Well, big deal. You know, somebody's going to take notice eventually. So get that capability statement out there. Look for events. Look for vendor days, networking events, matchmaker events, like the one that's going to be held in Dayton. All good opportunities to introduce your company to agencies and prime contractors. Some of the marketing mistakes that I've seen over the years, and I've been to a lot of matchmakers and networking events. Again, the biggest mistake is always no contact information on the capability statement. So make sure a person's name, a direct phone number, and an email. People will go to events. Well, right now everything is virtual, but hopefully eventually we'll be meeting in person again. And people will go to matchmaker events with huge bags of folders and inserts and slide decks, catalogs. At the end of the day, most of that gets thrown in the trash. They do not want to lug all that stuff back to the office. You have a much better chance of them keeping a one-page capability statement than spending all that money on all the fancy marketing materials. You need to do your homework. You need to show that you have a clear understanding of the agency's mission and what they need and how they buy. You have to do your homework. Some agencies love buying off of GSA. Others don't want to touch it. So you have to do a little bit of research, find out how they do their purchasing and what they need. And all that information is public information. Go to the agency's website, go to the USA Spending and find out how agencies buy products and services. When you do get the opportunity to meet with somebody, don't be a Debbie Downer. Don't share stories of woe. If I don't get a contract, I'm going to have to close my business. Leave all that outside. Don't bring anything like that into government meeting. You cannot expect instant results. This takes time. Even with a beautiful, perfect capability statement, it takes time to make the contacts and to start getting contract awards. Don't try to market to everybody at the same time. Come up with a plan. Decide who you want to market to first, who buys your products the most or services the most often, and that's where you want to start. So, in conclusion, identify your audience and plan accordingly. Know who you're talking to, know what they need, and tailor your capability statement to that person. Please use spell check, please. And do your homework. Get all of the intel you can before you start reaching out to anybody. And don't forget to contact your local PTAC for help, for templates. We will review your capability statement, offer suggestions. Reach out to us and we'll do whatever we can to help you be successful. And that's what I have. And that's an old photo.
Oh, nice. One. Great job, Jane. Great job. I know we do have questions. Thank you so much. You provided a lot of wonderful information, excellent tips that people can use, a great guide for those that need to create a capability statement, for those that already have one, and they need to kind of clean it up, they need to modify it, update it. We did have some questions in the chat that I didn't get to, and unfortunately I got picked out and knocked off. I do remember a couple, but if your question was not answered, please type it into the chat. A couple of them we'll bring up. There are several people that joined late. They had other appointments. This presentation is being recorded, and so that recording plus the slides will be updated and will be posted to the Ohio Business Matchmaker website. And then also, I do believe Sharon Hopkins is going to be sending the presentation out to the participants as well. Is that correct, Sharon?
So Shonda, what we're doing now, because so many people asked for the slide deck, we are actually posting the slide decks on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website as well.
Okay. So we'll do both. We'll post it on, yes, ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com. And so you can get the slides and the recording, not just from today's webinar, but from the previous webinars as well. So definitely check out the website to get that. I do know one question, a couple questions from memory. Someone wanted to know, Jane, because you did such an excellent job, where could they find other trainings that PTAC is doing? What website can they go to for? I will be listing the other webinars for the Ohio Business Matchmaker, but outside of the Matchmaker, other trainings that PTAC is doing, what website can they go to?
Trainings will be listed on ptac.ohio.edu. And you can also go to the state PTAC website. I don't know that one off the top of my head. Sharon?
Jane, I posted that in the chat earlier.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, it's fine.gov, contracts.ohio.gov.
Thanks.
Okay. And it looks like Larry Brown, the PTAC counselor from Cincinnati, just posted the PTAC website. So if someone just asked, how do you go about locating a particular PTAC county? So you do want to find out what county, whatever county you're in, and then find the closest PTAC office to your location. And then that's how you will identify your particular counselor. So if you go to ptacohio.edu, you can find out what PTAC office is closest to you. And then from there, you can go ahead and register and get set up as a client. One great thing is, I know I'm working with companies, please don't feel like if you don't have a capability statement, don't feel pressured. The PTACs are there to help get you a template to help you get it updated, help you get it cleaned up. They will go over it with you, help you get it ready before the Matchmaker event. So don't feel pressured. I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I don't have enough time. Don't panic. That's why PTAC is there. Or if you need to refresh yours or update it, PTAC is there to work with you. They will also look over it and review it and give you some tips and suggestions on what you need to do. They are saying, awesome job, awesome presentation. Well done, Jane. Again, if you have additional questions, go ahead and type those in. I'm going to give, in addition to creating your capability statement, it's not just for the matchmaker and you doing business with the federal government or local or state government. That capability statement is a marketing tool that you can use going forward. So it's not just for this event and you're not just going to be wasting time, but as you move forward, you can definitely use that as a way to market your business, even outside of the government. It's a great tool.
Absolutely. I think every business needs one as, you know, in their marketing toolbox. I think you should post it on your website, email it, distribute hard copies. Always keep a pile of them in your car because you never know where you're going to end up and who you might want to and who you might meet up with.
Yeah, great suggestions.
For all aspects of your business.
Great suggestions. Yep. Now, thank you for joining us today. For the rest of our series, the next webinars that we're going to have, again, if you have questions, you can go ahead and type those in as I'm going to go over our next webinars. Guess I'll put on my camera. Our next webinar will actually be this Thursday. It will be marketing to the government. And so Rich Delicio, our PTAC counselor from Akron, will be presenting that. And then as we shift into November, as we get closer to the matchmaker, we're going to start doing 2 trainings per day. So on November 4th, and then we'll also start doing the doing business with, so you can start getting information about different agencies. I know someone asked, it just came across my mind, someone asked, how do you know what agencies have registered? I believe when you go to the Ohio Business Matchmaker site, it does let you know, I believe, Sharon, what agencies are registered currently for the matchmaker. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that they are updating as agencies are registering to participate. They're updating that on the ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com website.
Okay, okay. So I know everybody is eager after today's presentation. They're going to either create their capability statement or update and refresh what they currently have, so that they can start identifying those agencies that they want to have those one-on-one sessions with. So in November, November 4th at 10 a.m., it will be doing business with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We'll have that webinar at 10 a.m. in the morning. And then November 4th in the afternoon, it will be doing business with DLA or DSCC, Defense Logistics Agency. They're right here in Columbus. That webinar will be at 2 p.m. And then on November 5th at 10 a.m., we will be having a session with doing business with NASA. So that should be wonderful. I believe a NASA representative from Cleveland will be doing that at 10 a.m. And then at 2 p.m. on November 5th, doing business with the Ohio National Guard. So someone just posted the, excuse me, the website, ohiobusinessmatchmaker.com. So you can go there to register for the webinars. You can go there to find the recordings of the previous trainings, the previous webinars, today's, and ones prior to that. And then also definitely to register for the Ohio Business Matchmaker. Excuse me, I need to.
Yeah, and Shonda, Abby has also posted that those that were asking about who was attending the matchmaker, there is a tab at the top of the page on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website that says who is attending, and you would click on that and they update that as agencies are registering.
Awesome, awesome. And for those that have not participated in the past, what happens when you register for the matchmaker, you will register with your NAICS codes, as Jane mentioned, those codes that identify your industry, that identify your products or services, and the agencies will register with the NAICS codes that they're looking to buy, and then they will match you up, and then you'll find out a few days before the event, what agencies that you will have the ability to meet with one-on-one. And so there'll be scheduled sessions and then unscheduled sessions, but stay tuned for more details about how that will work. But again, going to the Ohio Business Matchmaker site, I would encourage you to register today. It's only $35, very reasonable. And we're definitely looking forward to connecting with all of you and getting you connected with those agencies and getting you ready. If you haven't done business with the government, to do business with the government, or to take your government experience to the next level. I don't think we have any additional questions. And again, thank you so much, Jane. Great session today. Oh, there's the wonderful. There's the site. So as you can see, the registration at the top, who's attending, the tab, webinar registration, webinar recording. So it's all there at the top. And even if you want to find out more about the matchmaker, there is a couple minutes clip to give you an overview about the event. They're the agency, not just federal, state, and local government entities, but also we're going to have primes. And primes are prime contractors, the large contractors that may have contracts with a government agency, and they may be looking for subcontractors. So I believe some of our primes that we are going to have, I think General Electric, are we going to have Boeing, Battelle, Elford?
I don't think the list has been updated.
Okay, but you can see those prime contractors also that will be a part of the matchmaker as well. So it's not just government agencies, and also some universities and colleges as well. So I think that may be it for today. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Jane. Again, we want to thank Jane Stewart for that awesome, wonderful, very informative presentation. We love working with the PTACs. Thank you, Sharon Hopkins, and for everybody participating today. Please join us. Hopefully you can join us on Thursday for the Marketing to the Government webinars or other webinars that we're going to be having. And then definitely on November 17th and 18th, registering for the actual virtual matchmaker. We definitely want to virtually see you there and want to engage and connect with you. Thanks again for your time today. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.